Welcome to the I'm Not Coffee podcast, a conversation with coffee professionals, but removing coffee from the conversation.
We started a week before the lockdown?
Yeah.
March,
That's when the idea kind of started, I would say.
March 2020, we're like, hey, we should do this. And then the lockdown happens and we're like, okay, well, and that's why we want to get something with Damien online, because we want to show people that India has something to say with coffee. If I'm being quite honest, a lot of it feels like we're just falling forward.
Okay, what's up, guys? We're here on the podcast. Chilling here with Singh Beans. I'm here with Amrit, Jagdeep, and Hardeep. And so first off, guys, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Thanks for having us, Ryan. Well, we're Singh Beans. We're family run. Jagdeep's my cousin from Toronto. Hardeep's my brother. We're just trying to make a name for ourselves in coffee, but we come from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So we're kind of learning how the industry works. And it's just been a weird, wild ride for the last couple of years. We started a week before the lockdown?
That's when the idea kind of started, I would say.
March 2020, we're like, hey, we should do this. And then the lockdown happens and we're like, okay, well,
we got time.
What are we going to do? We got nothing but time. So Jagdeep was in the background kind of building the website and we were trying to figure it all out. And then I think by August 3rd on Rakri, we launched. So we were just like, this feels an appropriate time. So August 3rd is Singh Beans.
We launched the Pacific Roast. The first one was that day.
That's dope.
And we just kind of made it up. We just bought some bags online and had a stamp made and just tried to figure it out just to see if there's even a market for us.
A lot of it, if I'm being quite honest, a lot of it feels like we're just falling forward. You know what I mean?
Cool.
It's just kind of okay, I guess we're doing this. Let's figure it out. And then we'll sit down, we'll brainstorm, and then we're like,
what's the next step?
What happens?
Kind of learning as we go along too. The bag's not working anymore. Let's try to figure out what kind of bags we can go into next. The stamp's not working because it's too labor intensive. Let's try to look at the stickers and making new contacts with printing shops and who has the better pricing.
Coffee aside, it's been a pretty amazing learning experience.
Yeah.
Just to know and make mistakes. The past 2 years, we've probably made hundreds of mistakes, but each one is a crazy experience. We're just like, okay, we're not going to do that again for these reasons, but we learned what not to do. Let's shift this way so we know what to do.
I think the thing that we do right, we're willing to make those mistakes and just see what happens, and then also we ask questions.
That's the great thing about being young entrepreneurs, right? You have that ability to take those risks and make those mistakes. Whereas if it was our parents, they're so risk adverse, or they're
adverse.
Adverse. So they manage to risk a lot, and they're not willing to take those steps.
But they come from a completely different thing. If you imagine what they did, your parents or my parents, they just came to Canada,
or his parents,
they came to Canada with pretty much nothing, and now you have to start from scratch. So in their eyes, they're like, how do I get to a certain level where I can survive here and support a family?
Totally.
Imagine any of us going to China or something. You're like, okay, I don't even know the language. I got to start from zero. I got about $50 and let's succeed and raise a family here. That's crazy.
The advantage we all have is that we're kind of building on top of what our parents already did, right? And we have a safety net.
Absolutely.
Being able to have a place to stay, a stable job where you have that ability to do that, plus building our businesses on the side type thing.
Totally.
And just kind of learning from what they went through as well,
Exactly.
Their experience, their those long hours they put in, about learning. Just kind of learning the grind, right? Putting the hard work, then you get those results, and then having that foundation with us pushing forward.
I think the reason why we work well with each other is we all have our own strengths and all that good stuff, and we have a good Venn diagram, but we're all willing to work really hard, and we all saw that from our parents. That ability to do 12-hour days. We've been doing 12-hour days for the last 3 months, probably straight. And that's just, you learn that from your parents, right? You monkey see, monkey do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I relate to that.
And you know that, man.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate.
Your dad's a hustler.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know anybody that works harder than my dad. Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys, right? You guys don't know anybody that works harder than your parents.
For sure, man.
And that's just something that we aspire to become, and it's just really cool that we have that ability to understand and appreciate, where a lot of people might just take advantage of or not even see that, and just might want to reap the rewards of it. Whereas we still have to struggle, because it wasn't always easy, right?
Yeah.
That's what's interesting about us being, Canadians, right? We're all first generation. You guys were all born here. Yeah. So essentially, when we were young, it wasn't easy for our parents, we saw them struggle, And I think that struggle.
Grilled cheese every day, bro. That's what we're eating.
Cold grilled cheese and a pickle.
Bologna sandwiches.
Bologna sandwiches.
And that's crazy. What's interesting? What's crazy? For me, it was like roti, right? I'm sure it was all
we did
there.
the rolled up roti with
some sugar or something like that. Yeah, for sugar and butter.
Yeah, but that's what it is. That's a struggle.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Hamburger helper, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. All about
Fuck
that.
hamburger
Pizza
helper,
pockets,
bro.
that's all we had.
But it's amazing that stuff, like, because we saw it from such a young age. But when you translate that to, like, I've gone through a couple of different companies, and I see people who never have seen that part of it, and they never really grew up that way. And it's easy. I find it so easy to rise to the top of the pile because all I have to do is just apply my work ethic, and then those companies notice that. Whereas there's other people, and they're like, dude, this guy does nothing all day. Like, he's just on his computer. He's just making himself look busy. Whereas where they're actually working for this long, because I'm like, I have this philosophy where I'm like, I want to earn that sleep that I had that night. I want to earn that pillow. So I work the whole day, and it feels so good when you're lying in bed finally and you're like, holy crap.
Also, sorry to interrupt, but like along with that work ethic is also like the coachability of work. Like me and him have,
absolutely.
And again, Jaggy, I don't know your specific situation, but me and him have both had companies that we've worked at where there's an older person or a more experienced person who's willing to teach, but it takes someone who's willing to learn and adjust and kind of take that and run with it with the work ethic to be successful in that place. But it relates back to business as well, because the thing that you have to be coachable with is the market. The market is kind of your boss in the sense of like, this is what we want. And you gotta, as much as your brand is your brand, you also have to like have a market to sell to.
Well, Jagdeep, it comes from a completely, because he's from like the film industry.
Yeah, that's what I want to touch on, because you said something about background. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your guys' background.
Everything, like and I'll let him go into it, but there'll be times we'll be texting in the group chat or whatever, and he's like, hey, I got to do like 4 hours overtime because we got to get this specific scene out today. So his schedule is just all of a sudden, he's like, okay, I got to work 20 hours today.
On top of that, we still have like Singh Beans meetings too. So we're trying to do both. Like one time I was like, I was still working, and then had to call on one side. Just gotta, we still have meetings that we gotta hit up too, right?
And if there's like production with cold brew on his side, like,
oh man,
like the advantage we have in Vancouver,
it's a couple more bodies, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of us. It's just him on Toronto, right? So if he's working, doing OT, having a meeting that none of us really want to be in because we're all tired from the day or whatever, and then doing production, like getting ready for a market. Like,
well, it's just pretty much like my wife and I.
That's what I was gonna say. You got your wife there too, which is really cool too, because I know both of you guys have your wives also working with you guys.
Yeah.
How has that been, the dynamic with working with your wives? And it's been really cool to see that support level as well, because like
they're unreal.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see how they appreciate your grind, because it's really hard to kind of like choose a partner sometimes that just
understands the grind.
Yeah, because a lot of the time they just want a lot more attention, you know, and sometimes you just can't give them that attention because you're so caught up in what you're doing. So like if you're working 20-hour days, that's a challenge for her.
That, and then I think she understands it too. And then we obviously communicate, because I'm still working from home, like since COVID, like
that's a blessing.
Yeah, so it kind of helps that she's also like, because she studies in college and she only goes to school like Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah, and the rest of the week she's home, so we still see each other throughout the day. And that's sometimes having her there, she can kind of starting the cold brew process for the markets and stuff while I'm there. So it helps out. And then
I think one of the most important parts that I've noticed, at least, is to designate time for where you kind of flip your phone upside down and you're like, okay, it's just us. And that's been huge. But that's been a crazy learning experience, because I didn't know that in the beginning. And there are times where I felt us distancing a little, and I was like, okay, I don't like this feeling. That's too strange for me. I'm like, we're just kind of newly married. So I'm like, we want to bring that back together.
And that philosophy, like obviously for marriages it works, but it's like, you need that for yourself too. Totally. You know, like you need to turn the phone around for yourself too. Like big thing I think also that we do well, like not to talk about what we're doing good and all that stuff. Like there's a ton of mistakes that we make.
Let us pat ourselves on the back.
but we're very conscious of like because we're family, making sure that like, you know, business can get in the way of a lot of things. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And we're very conscious of that, but making sure that if you're burnt out, to take time off. Like for sure, just say, hey, I need a mental health day. I just need to take time off. I can't make this meeting. Is that okay? And just we're very open with each other on that type of stuff because
I'm
you
so
need
bad
it.
at that, man.
Yeah.
That's still a learning process for me. I just
You
can't.
need self-care days, man.
You need them.
You need
Get your
spa
nails done.
days.
Get your hair did,
Yeah,
man.
you need spa days.
Honestly, I just
Yeah.
wake up early, go hit the gym, and I treat that as my self-care. But at the end of the day, okay, I wake up at 4:44 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Is that really okay? Sure, I work on my body, but
Jay-Z,
then
man.
I'm going to sleep at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So
For
I'm not
sure.
really.
Yeah, that
no,
doesn't
take care of
count as
myself.
self-care. To me, like I've been down that road sort of thing, and I get where you come from, but there are days where I just say, okay, I've scheduled nothing today.
Yeah,
and
you
we'll just sit there and watch Seinfeld.
You
all
have
day.
to schedule it in too.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
Just schedule it because that's still something you're still have something.
100%.
It's like a task, but it's a task to do nothing.
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just otherwise it just gets too much.
And I will say, Ryan, like we have an advantage where there's more bodies here. Where if one of us can't make a meeting or just doesn't want to be in there for whatever reason, there's still other people who can take over.
Yeah,
That's an advantage we have
Totally.
that you necessarily don't, right?
Totally.
That's just another thing that you have to schedule it around the other projects you got going on. Stuff.
Yeah, good point, actually. Okay, so I just want to touch back just a little bit more on the history of you guys. So
Yes.
I know you were from Toronto. Were you born in Toronto?
Yeah, I was born in Toronto, in Scarborough.
So you're born in Scarborough, and you guys were born in Richmond.
Richmond, yeah.
Vancouver,
guys
St.
connect?
Paul's, baby.
So how are you guys related first, and how did you guys connect?
So my mom and Jagdeep's mom are cousins.
We're first cousins, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So they grew up together
in the same house
Like
in,
that.
in
But
India.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah.
the wild thing is that we didn't really know
Here we go,
of
man.
that side of the family per se until my mom told me that you have a cousin in Toronto that's coming here for school. And I was like, who's this? Like, I've never,
Yeah.
we didn't even know that this was a thing.
And by the way, he's running across Canada.
Yeah, I was running across Canada at the time.
I remember you mentioned something like this at the time when we first met.
It was because in Scarborough at the Gurdwara there, we were part of the GGSCF, the Google Missing Children's Foundation. So this was like our 10th anniversary back in 2009. So we want to do something big. So we organized with a bunch of sponsors and a bunch of help to do a run across Canada. We followed Terry Fox's route up until Thunder Bay,
Wow,
of course.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And so we started in St. John's. We had like an RV, we had like a 12-seater van, and we had like a small minibus, and all like a couple auntie volunteers, even my mom as well, and 20 runners. And we had split it up into 4 sections into Canada. So we had like East, Center 1, Center 2, and then West. And then since I was already accepted to Vancouver Film School, I was able to do the whole thing, or majority of the whole thing. I think I just skipped the Toronto part. And then that's
They
what,
ran across Canada.
Unbelievable.
it wasn't like it was like nonstop. We had like cycling runners, obviously, because we're not like that
Not like
athletic.
Terry Fox.
Yeah, not like Terry Fox, no. And then, but yeah, then like slowly started making our way to BC, and then they got the heads up like, yeah, your cousin's coming here.
I'm pretty sure we met you in Stanley Park.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
essentially the
The
last
first
leg
time,
of the run.
Yeah, that's the first time meeting
Wow.
these guys, and they're like,
You're, like,
just
exhausted.
Yeah.
just running around Stanley Park with the
I'm like,
group
hey,
of
what's
people.
up?
Everybody was in a bright yellow shirt.
Hey, how's
That's
it going,
cool.
dude?
Yeah. And then
That's
it's
where we've met for the first time out there.
And how old were you guys at that time?
2009. It was
Oof.
like grade. It was,
It was 18, 19
Yeah,
maybe?
18, yeah.
Well, I was 18, 19. Like
yeah,
we
we were
were
18. Yeah,
both 91.
yeah,
And then Jagdeep, that was probably in the summer, I think.
yeah.
And then
in the summer.
Jagdeep was coming to Vancouver Film School. He got accepted to
I didn't know that. That's
School.
super cool.
In December the class started, so I think I reached a month early just to like hang out and chill.
So we moved to Vancouver, which is pretty much a year of us playing like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty.
Just bonding over that.
yeah.
Both of us like praying we're not like that weird cousin. That we
Yeah,
had.
like that was kind of the crazy thing is like we didn't know anything about each other, and then we met at this run, and then when he came over and kind of like was staying in Vancouver, it just happened that we all had the same interests.
Yeah, it was just everything just meshed so well, and like it was just like work off each other's energy, and
Yeah.
like we all had similar interests in music and movies and games.
Yeah.
We were just sharing
just
collective
nerding out,
knowledge.
yeah.
Like you showing me like Arrested Development, and we'd sit down and watch The Office together, and we'd be exchanging music. And I
Yeah.
remember he got a bunch of sounds and stuff. I think the statute of
Yeah.
limitations is up on this.
Yeah.
But he took a bunch of sounds from Vancouver Film School, and he just gave me like their Foley library. He's like, "Here you go, dude."
Oh, and you're into music production.
Yeah,
right?
music production. So he'd be like, "Hey, like check out all these sounds." We still use them today. They're unbelievable sounds.
Dope.
Which is the kind of cool thing. Like we kind of like collaborate off each other, just like casually, like not even like something serious. Like he'll make like a kind of like a small little mix, and then I'll be like, I'll kind of make a little album cover for it. Like even though it's not going to anyone, it's just kind of like
That's
me
so
being my
cool.
creative side, throwing it
It's
to
so
him,
awesome,
and he's
man.
throwing me his music for me to just listen to.
I think we did a bunch of like intro music and stuff.
Yeah,
like
like
that
I used to
together.
love music for like my demo reels or just like random like artisanal like videos. just for fun.
But since then, like we've kind of kept the relationship going. Like we'll go to Toronto every now and then, and he'll come to Vancouver once in a while. But just through that collaboration stuff, the bond just kept growing stronger and stronger. And then like Jagdeep's worked on some amazing stuff. Like he kind of after school, he pretty much you started in Toronto.
It was as soon as I was graduate. I think it was like 3 months till I got like my first job. It was like 19. And then started working in the industry right away. All my friends were like still going like second year university or whatever, and I'm like already working on the career I studied for.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, because the VFS was like a 1 year accelerated program, so it was just like crazy nonstop. Like our summer break was a week. Like that was it.
Yo, this guy's got an IMDb page.
Yeah, you search my whole name.
You can search his
dude. He's worked on like legit like. Yeah,
lots of fun.
You got to do a brag. You
got to go down your top 3 or something, man.
Yeah, let's hear some of the projects you've been
Revenant's another really big one. Assassin's Creed, the movie.
Nice.
There was one of the X-Men's.
How great was it to work on Assassin's Creed after you played for so long?
It was crazy. The movie itself was like meh, but like working on like shots with like Fassbender on it, like that was pretty surreal.
But like in Revenant, like the scene that you specifically did is when he
when he's cutting the horse up.
Yeah,
like I worked on that scene specifically. Yeah, and then, adding the blood on his face and then removing the zipper he's actually opening and adding more horse hair and more blood and removing snow footprints on the ground from the crew left behind
and like Suits.
Yeah, right? Like TV shows like Suits, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder.
Recently, John Wick.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Crazy, man.
So that is really crazy. And what I think is really interesting is how the hell did you end up in coffee?
Coffee was my fuel. Like for all these like these late hours at work and like even coming home doing my own like creative stuff. Like the only thing that kept me going was coffee. And then it wasn't like good coffee. It was just like whatever I found at the store. And then and even then I was on like cold beans. It was just like pre-ground as shit because I don't have a grinder at home. And then mom's like, oh, just use a spice grinder. But I'm like, this smells like spices all day. Instead of like, so then I think over time I started figuring out like, oh, there's other types of coffee. Like I actually started reading the labels, what they're saying. And then I'm like smelling them, like, okay, these like, there are different kinds out there. I didn't go that far into like, where they're sourced or like how they're farmed, but just more like, this one smells good. Let's just buy this.
So when was it when you were like, okay, this is a fire coffee and I need to be doing something with coffee?
That's a great question, man.
Dude, I don't even know if that.
I think he's just a fan.
I think it probably did happen at a cafe, but like I think back then, even for me changing from drinking coffee with milk to black, that was just because of laziness. Because I was living in Montreal when I was working there, and then I would buy milk for coffee, and it would go spoil because I was barely at my apartment. I was always working or out partying or whatever. So it would just go spoiled. I'm like, why am I spending money and buying milk? And that's the only time I used it was for coffee. So I was like, all right, screw this.
So Juggy switched to black for economic.
Yeah. It was probably one of those things where he's just like one foot in front of the other, like, oh, let me try this, let me try this.
And then I was trying black. I was like, oh shit, I'm actually tasting like sweetness. I'm tasting this. And I'm like, then it was like, now those tasting notes make a little bit more sense. Obviously, I'm not tasting mango, but like whatever, like it tastes like biting into a mango. I'm getting that now. Can I understand where this is coming from?
Yeah.
And then, over time, just kind of getting more and more into it. And then I think when the three of us came together, we're like, okay, we all have special interests and traits. What can we do with this?
Yeah.
And then slowly, we're like, what about coffee?
And essentially how we started, like to get into like a little bit about how we started Singh Beans was, I think Amrit was visiting Toronto for Christmas or something like that. And he saw Jagdeep's setup and we were just making fun of him, to be honest, about it. And it would kind of look like a microbrewery, but for coffee, because out here in Vancouver, there's tons of microbreweries, stuff like that. So then we started to look into the world of coffee a little bit. We were like, does this exist? Is there a little like opening at all? Because we always used to make dumb jokes about like businesses that we could open and like, like a karaoke bar for like Indian students and stuff like that.
Trademark
it. No one take that idea. But it's like, if you want to play Brown One Day or something like that, something, place like that. That's one of the better ones, and it's still a pretty dumb idea. But
no, it's a great idea.
With Singh Beans, like, it's our idea.
It's all right.
We just took that and just said, like, is there a world of like Jagdeeps, right? People who have beautiful setups, like the one that's here in the studio. And then just essentially what we did was we came up with dumb names, like jokey names, and then Singh Beans, someone said Singh Beans, and then Jagdeep.
Yeah, it was a WhatsApp chat, and like I was at work. like before COVID, and then we were like coming up with just a list of just random names, and then Singh Beans came, and then like the idea for like the logo that we have now. I still have the original sketch of it too.
Yeah,
and, like,
I have that.
and we just drew it.
That's
We just
cool.
drew it. I made 2 versions, and I did one with one with like little eye dots and one without, and we all voted without the eyes.
Yeah,
And it looked better because it looked like he was like smiling.
and that was literally the first thing he drew.
Yeah, the first one right off the bat. We're like,
and
this
then
is it.
he put it in like digital form, and then kind of started from there. We were like, this logo and this name is too good for us not to use.
Yeah.
Not
and
to do
then-
something with it.
Yeah, and then we just essentially started cold calling and seeing what was possible, and then 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah, man.
Well, one of the first companies that we reached out to, the gentleman like reached out to for wholesale stuff. I'm just like, I kind of want to get an idea. He literally told us, he's like, I wouldn't advise doing this because most web companies, like what you're trying to do here, won't last more than
A couple months.
a couple months, and they fail pretty quickly. He's like, I advise against this, and we're like, yeah, but we still kind of want to do it just to see how far we can get with it. And that's literally what we've been doing. We're just like, let's see how far we can get with this. But then now, like in the recent, even in the last year, we've been sitting in some meetings, and we'll put ourselves on mute, and we'll be sitting there. I'm like, what are we doing here right now? Like, this is insane.
Like we were like part of these fundraisers for muscular dystrophy and stuff like that, and we were like showcased in the presentation and stuff. We were like what are we doing? Like, how did we end up here? And like Ryan, I know was joking about it before, but you were a big catalyst for us. Like you reaching out to us and like opening up, like the coffees that you're bringing in, stuff like that. Where it's a big catalyst to us being like, hey, we can actually like make this thing profitable and make it work, and like there's people who are actually inviting. Like I was joking about it, but like you introduced us to the coffee world a little bit, and like the connections you made. So we have to thank you for that, for sure.
Yeah, you opened the door. Dude.
Honestly, guys, I didn't open the door. Like, I knew you guys were gonna be successful. That's why I aligned myself with you guys. I knew what you guys were doing was the right thing.
Yeah.
And I knew that, like, if I teamed up with you on doing something, like, it was gonna be a slapper.
Mhm.
And I honestly, when the first time I saw the branding and I saw the name, I was just so drawn to it because I have a deep connection with just the word sing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Very, very deep
Yeah.
connection with that word. And yeah, even my family, like whenever my family sees your coffee, they get really happy, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah.
I love seeing my aunts and uncles like, oh, is this Sing coffee? They won't call it Sing Beans. They're like, is
Yeah,
this
it
Sing coffee?
doesn't matter. We don't care.
Right? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because they get so happy to just to see your logo.
Yeah.
you know? And just being represented.
For sure.
Well, that's
really
what the
cool to
hugest thing is. Like, even I found more and more as I grew up, like the bug and the turban in general is
we're getting into this, eh?
is like a beacon for a community where instantly when you see it, you're like, I can go to this person for help.
Yes.
If I need help, I can
See a
go
Sing,
to them.
salute a Sing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And there was even times during like last Christmas, me and my wife were at a Christmas party, and this uncle came up to me because he saw that I had a turban on, and he's just like, he's speaking to me in Punjabi, and he's like, hey, can you help me? I'm lost. Like, I don't know where I am. This is where I'm in White Rock. And he's like, I live like North Surrey and stuff. I'm like, yeah, don't worry. I'm like, give me 2 minutes. I'm like, let me just say bye. We'll go drop you off at home. He knew what his Gurdwara was. And he's like, that's all I know. And I know where I live from there, but I don't know where I am right now. And I'm like, okay, let's go jump in my car. And then I just asked my wife, I'm like, just sit in the back seat. I'm like, we're going to take this guy home. And all he did was approach me because of the way I looked. And he knew he could come to me for help, and then I would help him.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Jagdeep can give his perspective on it, but like the way that I look at this, like the Sing and Sing Beans just means way more than just a guy with a turban. Like we've been asked quite a bit because we're doing all the farmers markets we do and stuff are like in North Van or like Vancouver or like Clayton Heights, things like that. And we get asked a lot about that because like I have my haircut and all that stuff. And like, to me, it just means way more than just having a turban. Like,
Absolutely.
It's a way of life. It's how you act.
Totally.
Like all of Sikhism, like taking in that like lifestyle and that like
100%.
thought process is what it's really about. And like the fact that like the point of this whole business was we wanted to have people drink great coffee every day and know that that cup of coffee is just going way further than the cup that they're actually drinking. Like that's why we're donating to Musca, just because it means a lot to us.
Seva is such a huge thing in our
Exactly.
culture, and it's really cool that you guys incorporate the Seva.
The whole thing, the
Definitely.
whole business is just based around Seva.
This is going beyond that too. It's kind of going into community, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
sense of like Seva and like reaching out to the community and getting them all involved in what like with what this
is. But that's why the logo is so brilliant, because it is essentially like the bat signal.
Yeah.
As soon as you see that logo, you know exactly what the company is about. And you know exactly where the foundation is. Yeah. You would hope 100%, 100%. Yeah. And we want to stay true to that, because we don't want to insult our culture or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's why as soon as we did it, and even with the expansion into the UK, we want to make sure, I'm like, listen, at the basis of this, we need to select a charity that we really believe in, and that's going to be our primary focus.
Yeah.
And then everything else comes secondary, because we want to prove to everybody, and we're finding more and more businesses are jumping on the same sort of motif, is we want to be able to show everybody that you can still have a profitable business and help the supply chain and donate to charity and hit it at every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. And you're a big proponent of that too.
100%.
For sure.
Hey man,
that's why the relationship.
No, it's true. So like our values align really well, right? That's why it works.
And that's why I remember when we met, like the first or second time, we talked about Soul Tribe and how we connect. We felt like we knew each other for so long, because our values aligned so much. And I was like, I feel like I've known you forever.
Again, it's like when we met Jagdeep. It's like we never met this guy before, but it was just like it worked.
The universe was playing a crazy trick on us, though. It was weird.
We almost crossed paths like 6
Too
or
many
7 times.
Yeah, we took the same bus to school and everything.
That's pretty intense.
It's unbelievable how this actually ended up like into what it is today.
Yeah,
it's Kismet,
just starting to. Man.
It is Kismet. Yo, one thing though was because you guys came from the construction world, right? So how did you guys get into construction?
Yeah, me and my brother from construction.
Yeah, like our dad. So our dad is owned his own plumbing business, and that's how that kind of started. Like we worked with him growing up as kids, and a little bit like in high school, after high school type thing. And then, so my brother went to school. Actually, I mean, I guess you could start with that.
Yeah, I went to BCIT after graduating. I took a year to just work to make enough to pay for the textbooks and all that stuff. And then, I went to BCIT for architectural building engineering technology.
Anyone?
Yeah, because I want anyone. Shout out to the building with no windows, man.
Yeah, I feel like in prison.
That's so depressing. The worst part would a little tangent, but the worst part would be in the winter, because you'd have to get there by 7:30 to get parking. So it would
you would get parking?
Yeah, I'd have to get there at 7:30. It would be dark. And then you'd leave at like 7:30 at night, and it'd be dark. You wouldn't see the sun for 6 months. Oh, and everyone's eyes would be all like puffy and stuff. And that's just BCIT.
I'd have to park like 2 blocks away. Like, you know how like you go down Boundary and there's like a left? There's like a little street there. That's where my
brutal. And you got to forage everything else. You get like salt and pepper and spices and shit like that. But he does that. In his spare time, he just does that. So he
does foraging and stuff.
They had another guy with him that was just like their
just to make sure things were safe.
Yeah, and they're like, well, this guy's like a wild
expert,
wilderness dude, wild expert or whatever. And Tushar's like, oh, this is lichen we can use. And the guy's like, what?
Dude, and he's pulling like moss off the thing. He's like, we could use this for like...
It's got a great sweet, nutty flavor. And I was like, she's done, bro. She's
dude, he's like, he's really... I'd love for his story to get out there. Like,
they're pulling
he's
like...
cool, man.
Her and the wild guy, they're like pulling like wood bugs out of a tree. And she's like, yeah, maybe we can use these. And I was like, you're done, dude. There's no way you're going to win. No way you're going to win.
Let's jump back into BCIT.
Yeah. So that very depressing part of my life, you have full-time 2 years, right? BCIT is brutal. Like you're 8 to 5 classes and then you're just there all night. But I went into that, got a job with a smaller company, and then I went to school part-time at night. So it would be work during the day, go to school at night to get my degree in construction management, which I think there's a part we must have had a class together, because I think you did the same thing.
A lot of I was taking operations and supervision, so a lot of the classes overlapped, and a lot of my friends were in the same program as you, and I would like carpool with them sometimes, and like we'd all just.
We must have had a class.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, you had a yellow zip-up jacket that you'd zip all the way up to the top, like this or something.
Yellow.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It was like I don't know if it was yellow, but you had a raincoat that you zip all the way up.
Yeah, that sounds like
really
it.
high
for sure.
I wore hoodies all the time, man.
I just
still.
It was a raincoat. It was a raincoat. I remember just looking. I remember once I was on the bus at it's starting to all like kind of click. But I remember once I would hop on the bus over here at the Kootenai Loop,
Yeah.
And that's where I would always kind of meet up, like kind of see you once in a while.
I'd always take the bus to BCT. You take the Metrotown, and then you take the Metrotown
The
to
130,
BCT.
right?
Yeah.
So, and for me,
that was a Bermuda Triangle of death, because I used to live in Richmond, work in North Van, and then go to school in Burnaby.
Dude, what
the Bermuda Triangle, because I would be busing the whole time, and the only thing
that's where your soul died, man.
Yeah, the only thing that disappeared was my social life.
Yeah,
that was brutal. And then I ended up getting, the degree was kind of just because I had the chip on my shoulder. I was like, okay, I want to finish it now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just jumped into working full time with the same company that I was already working with. And I stayed there for like 7 years, but I've been in construction ever since. Like, it just feels natural to me. I've had these conversations with everybody else. I don't know how other people make money. That's how ingrained I am in construction. Like when people are like, oh, I'm an accountant, I was like, I don't even know what that means.
What does the day-to-day look like? But yeah, like such a, dugtail or dogtail or whatever it's called, dovetail off what he just said.
Other animals.
So we grew up we grew up plumbing and stuff like that with my dad, like putting in hot water tanks when we were kids and stuff. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to go to post-secondary because I was like, I don't want to invest time into something that I'm not going to pursue. Like I didn't want to just take classes for no reason.
Totally.
So I just started working. I actually took my plumbing level 1 in high school. So I had that, and I was going to work at a plumbing wholesaler to get contacts essentially. So like see what other companies are hiring, things like that. And then what I noticed just about the industry, and this is just construction in general, but there was a lot of like young men who just didn't get to see their family. And I was like, I don't want to be those guys. So instead of what I did was, instead of pursuing plumbing, is I went into the sales side end of things. And I just had a natural feel for sales and stuff like that. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to own a business because I saw my dad do that growing up. And he was always at like our games, and like he was always there for like anything the other dads couldn't be at, he could be at because he could move his schedule around. So that's what I love to see. But he was also working a lot, right? So that was the other side of it. But that's what I knew I wanted to do. And then from there, I just essentially just built my network of where I was working in circles. And anytime I needed to leave a company, so every like 2 to 3 years when things would get stale, or I figured the job out or whatever, again, like Amrit said, we just work really hard and we could just kind of float to the top. I would just shift to a different job. So then I went into like from plumbing sales to like technical boiler control sales, into architectural sales. Now I moved into like med tech. So yeah, that's kind of how that worked out. And like,
But once something becomes routine, like once I wouldn't say master something, but once you've seen it enough and it becomes routine, it becomes so boring. Like the whole part to me, like I have a theory that every person has a problem quota in your mind. You have to solve a certain number of problems a day, or you just start going crazy, or you make these small problems, like, oh, you didn't take out the garbage, that now becomes your huge problem for you because you filled your entire problem quota with this one tiny little thing. But if you're at work,
way to look at it.
If you're at work and you're constantly solving problems, by the time you come home, everything already, your problem quota is maxed out, so everything's just easy for you. But if you become routine and everything's just like, I know how to solve this problem, now you're going to create more problems for yourself that don't exist. Which is where I start getting, when anything becomes stagnant, I start getting nervous. And I'm like, I need to change, or something else needs to happen, because I need to keep my mind active, and it needs to be solving problems constantly.
And I think like even when we were starting Singh Beans, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now I know that this is what I want to do full time for sure. Like coffee's really become a passion for us. But like one thing I always knew and know now more than ever is I really wanted to operate a business. Like that's what I think I'm good at, is the operation side of things. Like and you know this, man, like the decision making when it's tough, and like making the hard choices, and like, pushing through problems, and like solving problems, like you said, like making things work and figuring out the puzzle that's just the most rewarding thing for me.
Yeah, it's very fun doing those things. Like even in for VFX, we'll get like, a shot to work on. It's like, all right, fix this. Like now you have to like creatively figure out how to fix it. And there were times when, like, especially for trickier shots, where like I'll go home or finish my job, whatever, and I'll still daydream about like how am I going to solve this problem the next day. Like I'll have dreams about it, and I'll wake up and I'm like, okay, I think I know how to solve it now, or try a different method instead.
But that's amazing because
That's
your mind is still solving the problem while you're sleeping, and you wake up. That's why every time we have an important closing or something, I was like, we have to sleep on this.
Yeah.
Because our mind is going to be thinking about it in the background. When we wake up, you'll know exactly what needs to happen.
I used to dream details in architectural stuff. I used to dream like, okay, how can we solve this detail? You would just think about it after.
It's the exact same thing for me,
Yeah.
guys. When I was building walls, like doing landscaping, like I would close my eyes and I would picture myself putting a block down, getting another, putting a block down. I just closed my eyes and it'd just be so routine that like it just was like it wasn't all I knew, but it almost felt like it was just like a habit. You know, it had just created this habit. And I don't know if that's healthy, but at the same time, it's kind of cool that our brains still will continue to find a solution, even though we've kind of shut it off. So there's a couple of places I want to take this now because we've talked about a few things, but I do want to dip back about a bit in your past because your guys' dad is somebody who's really, really cool. He has 2 tickets, right? He has an electrical ticket and he has a plumbing ticket, if I'm not mistaken.
And a gas ticket.
And a gas ticket.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, was that because if you think about he went to school here during a time where there weren't a lot of East Indian people. So if there are like a handful, like 3 or 4 East Indian peoples in a sea of
everybody else,
like Caucasian people and Asian people, they're getting bullied pretty hard. So what they did in order to rise to the top was just work way harder than everybody else.
Yeah. And that's how we were raised, is like, no matter what, you just got to work harder and longer than everybody. You don't have to be as good or anything. And I took that into sports too. It's like, I'm just the guy who's willing to be there before practice and after practice. That's it.
Kobe, man.
Absolutely.
R.I.P. man.
Mamba, man.
So can we touch on a little bit about your parents' past and how they came to Canada? Because as we mentioned before, we're all first generation Indo-Canadians. So I know that it was definitely not easy and it was a big sacrifice that our parents took to come here. So you guys want to touch a little bit about the background of where your parents are from and why they decided to make the decision to come to Canada and when that was?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure why they picked Vancouver.
I think it was John Chrétien, wasn't it?
I think it might have something to do with John Chrétien. And then also, I'm not too sure if your parents worked in sawmills.
Oh,
I think there was a large amount
Our
of
grandpa came first and he was in metalworks because they had a factory in India. And he came over and he was trying to explain to them, like, I know how to use these machines. Like, I've used these machines before, and kind of demonstrated that he knew how to use them. And that's where it kind of started. It clicked from there. So essentially he was there grinding it out in those facilities. And then he would sponsor somebody, bring them over. And now it would just kind of snowball from there. And soon enough, the whole family's over now.
Yeah.
So my dad's the eldest, so I think he was one of the first ones that kind of came over. Yeah. And then when they went back to India, I think dad was like 21.
How old was your dad when he first came here?
10. He was like 10.
Wow. Same with my dad. Yeah, he was 11.
Yeah. So they've been working. That's another thing. The parents have been working since they were young, like young.
Yeah.
So that's why now they're more inclined to get little toys and trinkets and stuff that they want now because they are living their childhood now as opposed to back then, which is interesting. And they so he when they went back to India, my parents had an arranged marriage, but my grandpa on my dad's side and my grandpa on my mom's side knew each other through business, I believe. So they kind of linked up and they're like, hey, they're roughly the same age. Like, let's try to make something work here. So they ended up coming to see each other. I think they went for a walk for like half hour and then they said yes. And that's what happened. My mom got married and she came to Canada when she was 18.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, that's a pretty terrifying thing.
Yeah.
Imagine that. When I was 18, I was barely
functional.
Barely a person.
We're living different. We live totally different.
I feel like
18 like that same mindset.
Yeah.
I feel like
And she had the other side to that is she had our sister when she was 19. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So imagine having a kid when you're 19 in a new country.
Learning a new language, everything is
that's
just an uphill
battle.
battle.
Soldier mentality.
Yeah.
Like there's very few people I think that grew up here that can go through something and crazy like that.
Like my mom was very similar to that, where like, because my dad's like the 4th youngest of 5 brothers, and like one of the older one was already in Toronto for whatever reason, but I think he was in tool and die. and then he sponsored my dad. And then they brought my mom over here and they got married in Toronto. But back then there was no Scarborough Gurdwara, so they had to rent out a school gym on weekends. Before there was a Scarborough Gurdwara, so they got married in the gym. And no one from my mom's side could come. There was like one like uncle or something that was like nearby. I think from Vancouver, and we flew down.
Oh wow!
To be the parents for my mom's side, and she was also married 18 and had me when she was 20.
Interesting. So, wow,
it's the hustle.
Yeah,
that is, dude, it's completely different. Like I'm 31, and we're married now, but no kids, right? Like I remember being that age. I think my dad had me when he was 27 or something like that, 26, 27. I remember being that age and going, there's no way I could have a kid right now. There's no way I could have my second kid right now. Yeah. That's insane to me. Mm-hmm. But they're in a completely different thing where they have their mindset was completely different. Their mindset was just like, this is the next step in my life. We married, now we have kids, and then we watch the kids grow and blossom and we give them a better life than we had. And then that's the torch that you carry. You want to give that to your kid too. You want your kid to have a way better life than you had.
Yeah,
so
it's like that.
A lot of people don't actually get to see that aren't really in our culture, and it's kind of a gift and a curse. I mean, I don't necessarily see it as a curse, but other people on the outside might see it as that. But I definitely think that's something, those values that we carry, we continue to pass on to our children, is like, it's super, super important for us to continue. Mm-hmm.
And because, I was just gonna say, we're very fortunate on that part because like, we got to see that example, and obviously every set of parents and family has their own stuff that goes on, but like our parents are still married 35 years later, right? Not a lot of people can say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like your parents are so dope, man.
They really are. Yeah, they are.
They really
are.
I just briefly met your parents, and they were really dope too. Your dad was super welcoming.
His dad's the best.
He was so nice.
He's like the king of dad jokes, man.
Yeah,
he's unreal.
He's so good.
That's awesome. So do you want to talk about a little bit about how your parents transitioned as well?
Yeah, sure. Like pretty much like both. My dad's like an electrician, and I think before he got into that, he was just doing like odd jobs here and there just to like support the family. And then he was also very open of like, my mom also finding work as well, not like stay home type of housewife type thing. So she started like working at, I think she was working at like a sock factory somewhere in Scarborough. My dad was working for JVC VCRs and shit.
Oh, cool.
Like way back then. And then eventually, I think through like his older brother got him a job for like doing minor electrical work, and then just kind of self-taught himself like electrical stuff. And then
that's not easy.
No, it's not, dude. Like I'll like help here and there do the odd outlets in my own house with him, but like this man's doing like full commercial buildings and like factories, and like his boss like has cottage up north, so all the cottage country people up there know my dad, so he's always up there on weekends doing private jobs and just sending me photos of like lakes or horse ranches and shit.
That's so cool.
But he's loving what he's doing, and like he only takes Sunday off, and sometimes he may not even take that off, and this man still works like crazy. And then,
both of your parents are like super hustlers, man. Yeah, like crazy thing about his mom is like she's hustling all the time, but she's always happy. She's like the happiest person in the room, no matter what.
So I'm very fortunate. I think me and my sister both got her trait. She loves chaos. Like she loves organized chaos. And then we kind of picked that up from her as well.
I was gonna ask you, like, how did she do that? Because I think that's a lesson that all of us
she got me, my wife married, and my sister and my brother-in-law in the same year.
Oh, interesting.
2 weddings we did.
Yeah.
In the same year.
You know how much...
that is definitely an organized...
Exactly. And look how much planning is involved in like moving parts, bringing family over from like UK, India. And all that.
And it's not like
getting suits, going to India, getting all the clothes.
And it's not like it's an East Indian wedding, right? It's a week long. Yeah. So like anybody who's like, hey, that's a hard time planning a wedding. I'm like, try planning 6-7 days of a wedding.
Yeah, man.
And then you have all the nindas. You got all the dinners at everybody's house.
Food. Like food's the main thing. Food.
Yeah. Drinks,
accommodations,
drinks,
and
drinks.
Well, that's a huge motivating factor to make your marriage work. To be honest, because I'm like, I never want to do this again. I'll never get married again. Like this has to work now because I'm not doing that again. It's one of the worst experiences ever. But that week was the week of your wedding is so fun, man.
Yeah, you wanna attend your own wedding during the wedding week because it's so much fun. Everyone's having so much fun, and you're like being dragged every which way until you're attending someone else's. Then you're having a blast.
True,
but it was.
You're always on the outside looking in until it's yours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll never forget it. She literally lined us all up for my sister's wedding, and she like in her head, she didn't have like a clipboard in her head. She was like, "You, go." you do this, go.
Man.
So
Unbelievable.
we're all like running around just doing our own shit and coming back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So now just kind of fast forwarding a little bit, you mentioned that you guys connected over here when you went to school. And then you guys saw Juggy's setup that he had. And he had a pretty interesting coffee setup. Is that how it kind of transitioned into coffee?
Not like,
Because you guys have said
that
you
was
were
like a
kind of
10-year, like almost like less than 10 years difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because you were saying you were making fun of him a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
that was 2010. I came in 2019.
Yeah. I think
So we always kept in touch and all that type
we-
of stuff in the years in between.
Yeah, we see each other every couple of years and stuff like that. And then I quit my job at the end of 2018. I took 2019 to just travel and stuff. But I'd always hop back into Toronto.
Just to actually touch on something, you guys, you actually met your wife through Juggy, didn't you?
Yeah, my wife. And
Checking his Wikipedia, eh?
the IMDb page. Interesting facts.
the wedding. Ask a couple questions.
You do your research. Yeah, my wife and Jagdeep grew up together.
Yeah,
That's
old
so
friends.
cool.
They've been friends for so long.
Yeah.
And then they came, I think you guys came.
I was studying here, and then
you came for the Olympics.
Yeah,
I came for
Olympics,
Olympics.
2010.
They came for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And she came along with a sister and her friend. And then we all kind of like,
They stayed at our house and stuff
they
like
stayed
that.
at our house and all meshed. And we were just eating Warheads and watching
The Office.
The Office and the
yeah.
Olympics and stuff. And then,
Warheads.
yeah, dude, have you had?
Yeah.
But we were stupid. We'd eat like 9 at a time.
Yeah.
just to-
So dumb.
The stomach would probably like.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
it wasn't
No,
good.
your mouth would be all raw.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
Yeah, it was not fun.
But then we all kept in touch. And then when we would go out to Toronto, she'd always she'd always take time to make sure she'd come out and say hi to us and all that stuff.
That's cool.
And then we kind of rekindled at Jagdeep's engagement in
Engagement.
2018.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of hit it off like crazy. And then we tried to make it work. And we were talking back and forth for a couple months. And it didn't really work. And then it really hit off. And then we kind of decided.
That was at his wedding.
At his wedding to
It hit off.
date. His wedding reception, actually.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
That we decided, I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. Like the
Which was in
chemistry's
Florida.
way too good.
You liking the way she's nudging or something?
Yeah. Oh,
I like how
yeah.
you're
All about
bugging
the
up
nudge,
now.
man.
And then it just kind of continued from there. But it's long distance, right? So it's across Canada, Vancouver to Toronto, which is weird because I think me and Jagdeep had a similar thing in that because his wife was in Florida.
Yeah. So we're doing
Oh,
long
wow.
distance as well.
So he's doing long distance. So I would be asking this guy for advice. I'm like, hey, how'd you deal with this kind of stuff?
That's
And
how the whole Sarasota thing kind of plays in. 'Cause
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah, because
She's originally from Vancouver.
yeah, her and her sister
Wow.
were born here, and then I think her brother was born in Florida though. But like, and then they only moved to Florida because like her dad like, got a residency there, like for his doctor clinic thing.
Cool.
So he had to choose between New York and Florida. I think he chose Florida. And then Sarasota's a beautiful town. Like it's
Yeah.
very artsy, very
Super nice.
very quiet.
They got gators.
Yeah, it's Florida. Man.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
There's
so
gators.
you guys got married then in Sarasota?
Yeah, we got married in
Because I
Florida.
remember seen a couple photos of you guys at some parties out there. So
Yeah.
Because we did the engagement in Toronto, so the compromise would do the wedding in Florida. So it was fun, like trying to like do. I did the logistics of like bringing everyone over. So it was
Yeah.
like for our side, it was kind of like a destination wedding
Mhm.
in a sense. Like, we're all flying. I'll be on the same flight and everything.
That's
So it was
fun.
pretty dope. A lot of fun, like pretty much taking over half the flight.
That's
Yes,
pretty
super
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
It's always fun. So just to once again fast forward a little bit. So now you guys have started your business in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So did you guys find any challenges doing that?
Well, not as a web-based business. We obviously found challenges in finding people to like because it's a beverage, right? You want people to be able to taste it before they buy it, but it was impossible at the beginning stages. So a lot of it was our friends and family initially supporting us, which we felt such an amazing support from everybody. And then slowly we've been watching it. I think the last year we've been watching it snowball like crazy.
Yeah, it kind of went from like this cute thing that we were doing to an actual business.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I've had friends approach me kind of off the side and stuff, and literally tells me like, "Yo, this is crazy what you guys are doing. Like, this is actually legit." And more, even my boss, like my current boss, sometimes we'll be talking, and because he follows Singh Beans on social media. And
Follow Singh Beans on social media.
Yeah, at Singh Beans, and he'll literally go we'll be talking about a project that we're doing, and he's like, "Hey, so what's gonna happen if this coffee thing takes off? Like, are you still gonna be?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, we'll see what happens if the coffee thing takes off." But people are taking it like people are now starting to take it so seriously, that it's making us even more take it seriously. Where I'm like, this can actually take off into something that we're all doing full time.
So I just want to touch on something about that. So, because I know for me personally, I have this exact moment that I was like I've had a lot of like reassuring moments from the universe to say, okay, I'm on the right path. But I had this very vivid moment where I was like, holy fuck, this is it. This is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys, what was that moment for you?
Do you guys have a moment?
Well, I don't know.
Few,
I think there's like moments along the way, but I think, to be honest, lately, I think it's been like this last year has been the reassurance from people we look up to in coffee. Like, it's crazy. Like, we'll be consulting with roasters or things like that. Like, we just had a meeting recently, and like the belief that other people have in us has given us belief in ourselves, I think.
100%.
Because there's people with like all this credibility in this industry that we don't know about are saying, yo, you guys have something. You guys have a market that no one else can tap into. You guys have it, and we're just like, okay, sure.
It's up to us to make sure we make those right steps too. Like, that's where it falls onto us.
So now we're being pretty careful about, I wouldn't say super careful, but like we're double checking all the decisions we're making to make sure like, okay, we have it. We have a market. We have the people ready for it, and we have the coffee. We just need to make sure everything's right, and we can push it.
Don't fumble the ball, man. They passed us the ball. Don't fumble it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We have a touchdown right there. We just need to take it.
We've both had moments, both in Vancouver and Toronto, where people will come out back to us and say, "Hey, like, we loved your product so much. We came back because we would do farmers markets. So like, we came back to this market specifically to get coffee again from you guys.
Amazing.
And we had that guy. Sorry to cut you off, but there was one guy. We just gave him a bag of the apenas, the medium roast, and he literally is like, "Dude, this is the best medium roast I've ever had in my life."
And we were like, "What?"
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
I'm sure dumb Byron Corrales is pretty happy to hear that.
I was just saying, like, at the markets too, like they'll try the cold brews that we make, and then they're like, floored by it. And then like next month when we do the markets again, they're like, "Yo, give me the 6-pack now." Like, I just want, like, you just beeline straight to us while we're setting up the tent. And I'm like, "Dude, we haven't even set up yet." I'm like scrambling to get the terminal.
Well, we have people texting us and saying, "Hey, can you hold 6 bottles for us? Can you hold bottles for us? Like, we're coming by. Like, just hold some."
Like I was saying before, like, I think that market being your boss, like that market reassurance has been amazing for us. And then also, again, like the accountability to each other, I think also has kind of kept us going. Like the fact that we're not in this, again, this is an advantage we have is working together is, we're here, like, we're going to show up to these meetings for each other. We're just going to keep it going.
But there's always been very surreal moments. Like, shout out to Aaron for doing this, but he linked up with Ravi Singh Khalsa in the UK.
Oh my God.
I remember that.
There was a moment, that was one of those moments where I'm just like, what is
He took a photo with our bag.
I remember
and like,
sending me that.
There's also like moments where like Jazzy B has commented to us and like Tiger Style made a video.
Who's that artist?
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Jazzy B?
He tweeted us.
No, she did from. She's from New York.
I don't remember what her name is. We'll have to put it in the show notes. That's what we'll have to do.
We'll just have people like.
Shout out to you.
We just have random people. Those are the moments where we step back and you're like, "Whoa, I can't believe this is happening right now."
Yeah,
I can't believe this is our brand. And you have those moments of imposter syndrome where we step back and I'm like, that can't be us, man. That's so weird.
Like with Jazzy B, he's like the guy that everybody used to listen to and still does growing up, knows even if he doesn't know who we are, like just to say our name and say like, "Yo, that's kind of cool that what you guys are doing." Like those little moments.
We'll take it. Like that's great.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
That's like, that's one of the biggest Punjabi artists ever growing up. For us at least. Well, and for our generation.
Exactly. And then also there's
no Gurdas Man.
Like Ravi Singh Khalsa as well. Like again, in the UK, we've expanded into the UK, and that franchise out there donates to Khalsa Aid, right? So for them to link up and to him to kind of know exactly who we are and what we're doing, it's insane. It's crazy. It's kind of surreal. And like the other surreal part too is like now we've been getting into stores. Like Mon Farms is kind of a big one for us, and like a couple other places that we've been getting into in Toronto and in Vancouver. But to have our product that we've been working on for 2 years, like again, working 12-hour days, that type of stuff. To see it on a shelf now is kind of like weird for us.
Yeah, it's like slowly seeing our result, like all the hard work kind of paying off.
Actually play out. Instead of it being this thing that you're just shoving energy into.
Totally.
You know?
So the market was what gave you the reassurance. The market and also somewhat, I guess, mentors in the industry are kind of what gave you the reassurance to make you feel like you're on the same path.
I think because of like COVID too, because we couldn't like approach people, and now we're finally able to like get it out there like physically.
Yeah. That's another thing I was going to ask you. Sorry to cut you off, but how do you see the difference now that you're not in the pandemic and now that you have a flourishing business? How have you shifted your sales, or how have you shifted the whole game plan of your business to be able to attract more business? Because I know the markets you have for sure. The markets are key, I think.
100%.
It's amazing for you guys. But how has that transition been from like going out of the pandemic and now not being in the pandemic?
I honestly think the time that we were in the pandemic was pretty great for us in the ability to make mistakes on a smaller scale and understanding what we want to do. So as we learn things and we grew, now when it's time to approach a store or approach another market and stuff, like to level up, we know what we're talking about. And now we know where we are, where we need to be, the price points and all that stuff. I mean, everybody's just making it up. But we know how to approach those situations and we kind of know where to go. But if we did that in 2020 and started to reach out directly, there's no way we would have got there. There's no way.
It was a good trial and error phase. I guess. That's kind of cool.
And then, and again, I'll let Juggy jump onto this, but like, I think now that we've transitioned out of the pandemic, whatever that means, is there's more opportunity for us, right? Like, again, we went through that trial and error phase, which I think we needed, honestly.
I think every business needs that.
For sure.
You guys are fortunate to, I guess, kind of go
through
that.
You gotta keep making mistakes, man. That's how you learn.
But like now we have those markets, and like going to these markets consistently have been amazing. But now there's other avenues for us, like doing weddings and events. That's kind of a big part of the business that we want to expand in the next year.
I love that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like, to be honest, it's been pretty amazing for us. And then also, again, stores. Now everyone's going back into stores and doing all that stuff. So that really opens up the opportunities we have.
Sort of like the wholesale kind of business side of things.
Exactly.
Well, we feel like there's so many different facets to having a small business now, especially. And we're blessed we're standing in the middle of this very weird Venn diagram where we can dip our toes into different pools. Like the weddings and events are very specific, and because East Indian culture, like the weddings are very trying to keep up with the Joneses and stuff. Now having a coffee bar is like a minimum thing that you need, right? But now if we come in and the market and people start noticing it and they're like, wow, this is a service they offer. They're like, hey, send us a price. Like where are you sitting at? Whereas compared to other roasters don't really have that ability. But because this is it's coffee roasted, and we have specialty coffees and that we're doing it completely different than other companies that are doing it just serving.
I was gonna say like I think the beauty of us like being also like local and just the three of us, we're able to expand and contract our business as well. So to do a full wedding event with like a coffee bar and having cold brew and like brewed coffee, to go as big as that, or even like to stores, but also downscale to just a simple market on a weekend. Like I think we have such crazy flexibility, and like how Amrit was saying, we're like dipping to all these little toes and like into little different avenues and kind of seeing what we can do with what we have.
Yeah, and like really what we want to do eventually is we obviously want to open up a shop, right? Where it's a good cafe that offers good value. Like we want to make sure that does right, a place that people can afford to come back. And Amrit's always wanted to cook, and we've always talked about owning restaurants and stuff like that. So to just make like, I know, man, it's
I gotta try that your ravioli, bro.
So good.
Yo, I got some. Come on.
I just see snaps of it.
Yeah, come through, man.
But like have like simple meals that we cooked, and then also in the back having a roastery, having an event side of the business, and then having a wholesale side of the business. Like we want to take like 3 or 4 different avenues into coffee, and then eventually kind of expand out of coffee and kind of build a brand.
It's kind of like our little home base, and then going from there.
Exactly. So
So what's in the pipeline for the future for you guys? You guys have anything in the works for 2023 specifically?
I would say like in the next year. I mean, it's tough because like we talk internally a lot about what's going on, but we don't like to talk about things unless they're like happening. But I would say probably the big one that's like pretty much done that we could talk about is like we want to be, a big proponent of Indian coffee because it's very much not known, especially out here, right? And we're working with some people and we're just kind of finalizing that. But we've been taking the year of 2020 to make sure that we get the right coffee and do it properly. Because if we're going to be Singh Beans, if we're going to have an Indian coffee, it's got to be good.
Totally.
Because again, our marketing can be whatever it want, our brand can be whatever it is, but the product's got to be good for people to stay. So that's kind of probably the big next project for us is being the guys who bring Indian coffee as, competing with South America, I would say.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
that's super cool. And you guys are also teammates in that little business that you guys are going to be launching in 2023.
Yes. Sorry, did you want to talk about? And we're also launching the business called Second Chance Coffee, which we're working on with this other guy named Ryan.
Oh yeah.
I would rather I'd like you to talk about that if you wanted to, because you know the farm side of it and like all that type of stuff. If you want to get into it.
So just to give our listeners a little bit of insight about what we're doing here is I'm an importer, as some of you guys might know. I've been working with a lot of farms in Nicaragua, and what we realized was majority of the producers we're working with produce more of a non-exportable quality than they do the exportable quality. And the exportable quality that they do produce is not, when they actually end up selling whatever they do have, it's not sustainable for them to continue to reinvest in their businesses and continue to grow. Essentially, it's just they get trapped in a poverty cycle and they just keep bleeding out money every single year. So the non-exportable quality is still really good and it's always consumed within the country.
For sure.
We decided to come through and buy that at a premium and then compete with people on the grocery store level and start selling it to people and the end consumers at a not wholesale, but like at a
grocery level.
Yeah.
Well, Second Chance is bringing the coffee producers, the importers, and kind of the roasting and distribution into one Voltron of a company.
No, you're right.
What a word.
Which is us coming together.
Word of the day.
All team. Voltron's unbelievable.
I just love this stuff.
Shout out.
But
this is the crazy aside, but I've been watching the Japanese Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
I've never even heard of that.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers started in Japan.
No way I didn't know that.
It is so good.
It's so much better.
So good. Pete, you gotta check this out. It's unbelievable.
Dude, that was my shit.
But Mighty Morphin, the Japanese version,
dude, Japanese version is like intense,
beyond
man.
what they did in North America.
They got real storylines. It's crazy.
Do the putties talk? Or are they still like
the Green Ranger?
Yeah.
But the Red Ranger and Green Ranger were
Tommy?
brothers.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Jason and
Spoilers.
Tommy are bros?
No, it's not even
Japanese
Jason.
Dude,
It's Japanese Jason.
Yeah.
And he's a prince, and his father died, so he's technically the king. And his brother is the Green Ranger, who is also a prince, and they have this internal beef the whole time. And that's why Jason and Tommy in the show never really got along. There's a power struggle.
Yeah, I remember
because they're supposed to be brothers.
That's so interesting. Because I was always like, how did Tommy come out of nowhere and be so elite? Like he became like this. Sorry, we're going really off topic here, guys.
No, this is great.
But like, just to like add to that, the Red Ranger is like very much shown as the leader. Like in the North American one, yeah, he's like making the decisions for sure. But like
we would play at recess and like it would be a fight to be who would be Red Ranger.
Yeah, in the Japanese version though, like he's the king. Like he's very well known.
The king. Nobody does anything unless he says it.
Yeah, it's very well known that he's the guy.
That's why his like spirit dinosaur or whatever is the T-Rex, because that's like the king of all dinosaurs.
The one thing I will say though is that
what about the Mastodon?
The Zordon character in that is not as good as Zordon in the North American one. They messed that up.
The Zordon is like in the Japanese version, he's just like this wizard.
Zordon came on in like the second.
He's straight up a wizard, man.
It's like a second season where the Zordon came out. After the movie, he came out. When prior to him, it was the woman who had the cones.
No, you're thinking Lord Zed.
Oh, Lord Zed.
That's Rita.
That's Rita.
So Rita in the Japanese version.
Okay, this all makes sense.
Rita in the Japanese version, her name is Witch Bandora.
So sick.
It's so sick because all the footage of them fighting and stuff like that in the
is the Japanese.
Yeah, is the Japanese footage. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, I remember this villain. And they just dub over. But the North American one took off so far, they made so much money that they literally brought those actors from Japan to North America to film scenes.
So they started by just cutting the Japanese footage and using it in North America, and just anytime the Rangers are fighting and stuff, that's the Japanese guys.
Yeah.
And then when they would take their
cool.
helmets off and stuff, it's just American actors.
That's why if you pay attention to the Yellow Ranger is male in the Japanese version, but female in the North American version.
Man, I used to have the biggest crush on Kimberly, and
Everybody
Who
did.
did?
and my cousins would be like,
That was everyone's sexual
for sure,
awakening.
man.
and I didn't have a crush on Trini. And my cousins would drag me, be like, "You have a crush on Trini?" I'm like, "No, I like Kimberly." No way. And like to the point where I'd be like in tears.
Yeah,
Man,
Power Rangers is the greatest.
Yeah.
That's literally my childhood. Power Rangers, Transformers.
Yeah, and
Beasties,
Pokemon.
man.
And Pokemon.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, me and Peter had a nice little conversation about Pokemon not too long ago.
Who's your partner? Who would you choose?
Oh, Pikachu.
Yeah, of course.
Pikachu?
Oh, that's
My
yellow
Charmander,
version.
bro.
What? So
If I
red.
had a vote.
Wait.
Oh no, if you had one. What about red and blue?
Actually, no, I think maybe Squirtle.
Squirtle was my pick.
Squirtle's fire.
Mine was Charmander.
Are you
Yeah,
getting
Charmander
Violet or
for sure.
Scarlet at all? You play the games?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you recently got
We'll
a
talk.
new one.
We'll
Right?
talk.
Just defeated, just like-
No, we'll talk, man. I'm debating buying it.
I
So
still have a complete first set. I got the cards and put them straight into folders.
Oh my
I
god,
think
that's
I'm-
worth millions now, dude.
I'm missing like one. I think it was
Oh my
Clefable, my stupid neighbor down the street.
Damn, Clefable.
that was Yu-Gi-Oh for me.
crazy.
For
But I
sure.
have the hollow Charizard. And Blastoise.
Dude.
So fire, man.
Wow.
I don't know if you saw they just posted on IGN, I think, that Ash finally became the Grand Master.
You
Oh,
caught them
wow.
all?
Yeah, or whatever. But like he like after
He beat
25
Elite
years or
Four or
whatever.
something, right?
Like
No, he already had beaten the Elite
He
Four.
beat the Elite Four, yeah.
yeah, he's like officially finally now like a Grand Master.
That's
Yeah.
super cool, man. Good for
Yeah.
him. Congrats. Shout out to Ash.
After 25 years.
Shout to Ash.
I was
Ketchum.
more of a Digimon guy than Pokemon. but-
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I had the
Yeah.
Digimon PlayStation 1 game and I never understood it because when I would play games, guys, like I had Zelda. I mean, as I got a little bit older, I would start reading, but like I would have Zelda for my Super Nintendo, and I swear it came with my Super Nintendo. I would play and play and play, and I would only get so far because like there was so much reading,
Mhm.
and I just like X,
Yeah.
like just go
And you're like,
past
what
all
do I
that.
do now?
Yeah, exactly. And then you'd just be stuck. And then I'd pass it to my friend, and my friend gets so far ahead, be like, how did you find everything?
Yeah.
It's that paragraph 5. You got to read that thing. The one thing he says.
But if you think about it now, like even when I play a video game, if I play a video game now, if I'm stuck on this part for 10 minutes, I'll literally go on YouTube now. Okay, how do I get past this?
Yeah.
What's the
It's
one
honestly
thing-
frustrating a little bit.
But there's games
I
that
hate
we used to play as
myself for it.
kids where we would come back 5 years later. I'm like, okay, I'm completely refreshed on this. I'm pretty sure we can beat this. And then we get further than that. I'm like, ooh, there's a whole other game here. Like, what's going on?
I mean, I know in Pokemon, like, I know where everything is still. I was telling him the other day, like, I know where you can catch a Jigglypuff. I know where you can find, like, the
Yeah.
Moonstone. I know exactly where everything is. And red and blue for
Mhm.
Oh, unbelievable. Red
Ju-
is so good.
Just to touch on the searching up thing, when I played God of War, obviously not the new one, but the one that came out for PS4, I was searching up where to find like all the chests and stuff because I was like, I just want to 100% complete it. I want to find all the things. After like two like missions in, I was just like, okay, I gotta restart this whole game and just play it, just to play it rather than because it actually like ruined the experience.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
100% does.
yeah, you got the 100% or the platinum trophy or whatever, but
Now what?
you know, you didn't really get to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm. Good point.
Yeah.
I think video games are what are the cause of OCD.
I kind of agree with
I
you
agree with
because
you.
it's a
You're
lot
right,
of
man.
completionist stuff. Like even Grand Theft Auto
So
5,
right.
I got to a certain point and I'm like, what are these last like missions that you need? And a lot of it's like, hey, collect 100 alien tokens. Like, don't make me do this, man.
Our cousin, his name's Hardeep. Shout out at Hardeep. Follow him on Instagram.
Oh, yeah,
But-
I'm on Instagram too. I met him actually at the market.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome guy.
Great food blogger.
We grew up with him playing video games and stuff like that. To this day, this guy gets a video game and he has to platinum it. I'm not saying he's OCD, but he's just like, I want to complete it fully, just so I know that I have this platinum trophy on my trophy case.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
love it.
Would you guys just give them like the shittiest games?
You know what? We
Just
grew up a
run
lot on
things.
like
It's
Crash
a really good
Bandicoot
idea.
and
Crash
Spyro and stuff like that. So
yeah,
like
remember
when the
those?
new ones came out,
Yeah.
he would buy those and be like, send us a photo like, yo, I just completed it. Like, dude, how did you do this?
But if you gave them like Viva Pinata, you'd just be like, fuck that.
Honestly,
Yeah, pretty much.
probably,
he probably
yeah.
would.
We probably should do that. His
Just
birthday's
give him
coming up.
trash
So.
games.
Yeah.
Just give him trash games.
Viva Pinata.
Give him
Pinata.
that
Where'd you
one
pull
game
that
that has like
from, man?
1,001 games.
Please,
Yeah.
Viva Pinata.
Yeah,
Just find the $5
Little Big Planet or
At
something
Walmart,
like
just
that.
get those games.
Yo, that game's good.
Little Big Planet sucks, man.
That was
Sorry.
Remember when Wendy's came with Xbox games?
Wendy's?
What?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. We were like
Tell
at
us,
least
man.
in
This is a
Toronto.
Toronto thing.
Like Wendy's, like when 360 was like recently out, they had like a whole promotion. You get like a couple of burgers, or whatever, and you get like an Xbox game. Not an A-list game.
I
It was
wish,
literally
man.
like Mario Kart, but Wendy's. So it's like a Wendy's guy like with the crown and everything, and some other
That's
characters.
insane.
It was crazy. That was such a random.
Wendy's
thing.
on another level, man.
Do you remember when they started doing trade-ins and stuff, like for video games?
Yeah.
Crazy,
And
man.
Best Buy had this. It was when Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty 4 came out, I think.
Greatest release of all time.
Yeah.
And Best Buy was doing this thing where you could exchange any 3 games and you get one of those for free. And we were trading in like DLC games
Yeah,
that are
man.
like that we bought for like $10, and then we would just go buy those games,
the
and
newest
trade them in.
games.
Dude, Best Buy and Future Shop laid off so many people
Because of that.
Because of people like you.
Because of that, because they lost millions and millions of
Yeah.
dollars.
I was working there at the time.
Yeah, no way.
I didn't get cut.
That was
Too funny.
such a gong show. We were
That's so
standing in
funny.
line in the
Just
morning,
laughing.
like 7 in the morning.
But dude, that sorry to go back. The Assassin's Creed / Call of Duty
Yeah.
4 release was like
that
the
was a
greatest
peak
release of all
That
time.
was a peak of that generation.
That was like
gaming.
one of Ezio's, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the
That was
first
the
one.
first Assassin's
The
The
Creed.
funny thing is, we bought that because of Assassin's Creed, and then we didn't like the first version. Obviously, Assassin's Creed, like the Brotherhood and stuff like that, were great. But then COD 4, Modern Warfare, was like
Campaign was amazing.
generational changing. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending on
That might have ruined my life, man.
Yeah.
Like we spent an entire summer indoors just playing that game. It'd
Yeah.
be beautiful outside.
Yeah,
Like,
Vancouver summer, you know.
unbelievable summer, and we'd be no, I'm gonna prestige.
Yeah, I got a prestige 10, level 55,
and
gold,
yeah,
everything.
We were trying to do like veteran, like spec ops. Like we had to get 3 stars no matter
Yeah,
what.
you'd
Like,
have to beat 100%. But we would alternate lunches.
This is dirty shit.
Like we'd alternate eating lunch, so the game would be constantly going.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, you eat lunch first,
Yeah.
and then we'll all keep playing, and we'll level
just
up,
taking
and then
shifts.
you tag in, and then I'll.
we were like barely old enough to make grilled cheeses, and we would like make a grilled cheese. One guy would make it, and the other guy would eat it, and then just like rotate over and over again.
I think our PlayStation overheated like 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kept doing it.
Okay, guys, we got a little bit off topic here, but I just want to first off, before we do wrap up here, I just honestly want to say, guys, I'm so proud of everything.
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
do.
us, Ryan.
Honestly,
It's
you
great.
guys, like
Thanks,
your
man.
growth has been so fun to watch, and you guys are the most fun people to be working with. I'm not
That's
gonna lie.
Appreciate it,
very
man.
kind of you.
And like I'm so happy to be starting this new venture with you guys because honestly, like I'm so aligned with you guys and aligned with just your work ethic and just your vision for the future of what you have for yourselves and for your family and everything. It's really, really beautiful to see it all coming together, and it's really cool to see you guys just succeeding. You know,
Appreciate
like
it, man.
you guys have been growing like crazy.
You're
and-
part of the tribe, man.
Yo, and
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
say
man.
too, like you and I have had a lot of discussions this year. Same thing to you, man. Like you have made a lot of really smart decisions as a business owner. Like I told you that not a lot of people will be willing to make. And where I've seen your business go like this last like 2 weeks, man. Like
2 weeks alone.
2
yeah.
weeks alone, man. Like the way that you have it set up is great. Like so we're super. I think like all 4 of us can say we're super excited to like be growing on with this whole thing together. Like
yeah, absolutely, guys. So
Yeah.
more power to you guys and keep doing what you're doing because, like, honestly, it's just an upward trajectory. I know you guys are just going to keep on building and you guys are just going to be more and more successful every single year.
appreciate it. man.
100%, man.
All right, so just to wrap that up, guys, that's the first episode of the pod, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks for having us.
Sweet.